Alright guys, I wanted to explain some diet concepts to you all because I get a lot of people who have a lot of weight to lose. And as some of you may not know, I've actually lost quite a bit of weight myself in the past. I went from 385 looking like this to 235 looking like this. So basically, I know a thing or two about losing large amounts of weight. At the very end of my diet, I did use a legal pro-hormone twice for like a month at a time. That's when I pulled 695 for reps while dieting. But I mean, it's a month, it's 2 months total with a break in between of something legal. So it's not like what I was doing was aided the entire time because my diet took me a year and a half. And obviously, while using that pro-hormone, I dealt with 695 for 10. So clearly, most of it, the vast extreme majority of it was done naturally, which I would say most people are doing when they're trying to lose large amounts of weight. Anyways, I'm going to start off from the perspective of someone looking to lose a large amount of weight. First of all, you're going to want to start off around what you maintain on. You're going to want to know what you maintain on so that you can manipulate it. Because if you jump into too big of a deficit, what's going to end up happening is you're not going to be able to lose all your weight in one straight go. It's going to take you not necessarily longer, but it'll be very challenging in its own way. When I first started my diet, I was eating, I think, 3,000 calories, which I quickly dropped to 2,500, which shortly afterwards dropped to 1,900. And I started doing cardio twice a day, training 6 days a week with high volume and heavy weight. And what happened was I lost 100 pounds in 6 months following a very low carb, moderate fat, low protein diet. I was only eating about 250 grams of protein a day, probably about 80 to 100 grams of fat, and as little carbs as I could consume, really. But what happened was at the end of the 6 months, my metabolism was ruined, and that's what happens to a lot of people who are trying to lose large amounts of weight. They mess up their metabolism by getting their body to sort of recognize that very low number as their new maintenance number. I got down to about 270, 280, 275, and I could not lose another pound even though I was eating 1,900 calories a day. And because of that, I had to eat more calories again, raise my metabolism back up. The problem was I lost 100 pounds in the first 6 months, but because my metabolism was so damaged, it took me a year to lose the other 50 pounds. And that's where I went wrong. You want to do it gradually. You want to gradually lower calories, gradually increase cardio, gradually increase training, gradually change macros. It's a very specific way of doing it, of how much extra cardio you add in, what kind of cardio it is, which ways you would change your macros, possibly upping your protein, lowering your carbs. I'm not a huge believer in extremely low carbs. I mean, obviously it works, but I think it also works eating carbs. And I think if you can eat carbs, you can train harder, maintain more muscle mass, and go heavier while you're dieting, which will not only let you burn more calories, but also help maintain muscle mass and stuff. So after the first 50 pounds, I wasn't obese anymore per se, but I wasn't thin by any means. And the last year of dieting, I learned a lot about dieting. And what I learned was, obviously, gradually over time, you would either increase your workload or increase your cardio and stuff. But what I learned was, by the end of the diet, instead of eating no carbs in the beginning of the diet, I could eat 400 something carbs a day. I could eat just as much protein and just as much fat, but I was able to keep losing fat on a weekly basis. So it has a lot to do with carb manipulation. I'm gonna let you guys know your body does have an appetite for fat. There's a certain amount of fat you can eat that's not going to be a problem for dieting, and there's a certain amount of carbs you can eat that's not going to be a problem for dieting. Neither of them are bad in their own sense. But if you don't give your body what they actually need, because your body needs fat, it doesn't need carbs, but it likes them for training and stuff and recovery and getting bigger and stronger. If you don't give it what it needs, you actually hurt yourself to a large degree because you end up eating less calories and therefore slowing down your metabolism a little bit more. Ideally, you'd want to diet on as many calories as possible, but you end up eating less calories, messing up your metabolism a little bit more, and you're not as strong or as motivated or have as much energy throughout the day. And that's just a recipe for getting smaller and weaker and making it very hard to lose weight. So my lesson to you guys is don't try and diet too fast. Start at your maintenance, slowly work your way down. Try and manipulate your macros to do a little bit better, maybe higher carbs on workout days, lower carbs on off days, some days no carbs at all. Maybe if you're not losing weight on the same amount of calories, try upping your protein by 50 grams, lowering your carbs by 50 grams, keeping your fat the same. Work with a coach or something like that if you don't know how. If you do know how, just remember, don't try and rush it too much, because if you rush it too much, you'll end up messing yourself up to some degree. Make sure you keep the heavy weight training in there, obviously. to maintain size and stuff like that, maintain strength, or even gain it while dieting. Because, like I said, I did gain some strength in some ways while dieting, although it was very hard to do. And basically, just don't be in a rush to ruin your metabolism because it will. Uh, so, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you learned something useful. And subscribe to my new channel. And stay tuned for more.